Deep in the whispering woods lived a little firefly named Flicker. Unlike his siblings who loved to play hide-and-seek among the tall trees, Flicker preferred to stay at home. He didn't like going out alone because he was afraid of the dark. But one night, his older sister dared him to do something crazy, and it would change his life forever. It was almost time for the annual Firefly Festival, where all the fireflies from neighboring meadows gathered together and put on the most spectacular light show of the year. To prepare for the big event, Flicker's family spent their days collecting the dewdrops and flower nectar they'd use to make their lights shine even brighter than the stars. While his brothers and sisters zipped back and forth, filling their little glass jars with treasures, Flicker stayed inside with their mother, helping her polish the old brass lantern that hung from their front porch. "Why aren't you outside playing with your siblings, Flicker?" their mother asked one day, noticing how much time he was spending inside. "I don't want to go out alone," Flicker replied. "What if something scary jumps out and tries to eat me?" "Oh, stop being such a scaredy cat," his mother said with a giggle. "There's nothing to be afraid of. In fact, I'll prove it." She handed him the brass lantern. "Why don't you take this outside and show the others how shiny you can make it?" At first, he shook his head, but she insisted, until finally he agreed. He took the lantern and walked slowly toward the door. As soon as he stepped outside, though, he wished he'd stayed inside. All the other fireflies were out, practicing their light patterns, and they were zipping and flashing everywhere. He tried to make himself go further, but then he heard a loud crack and jumped back, startled. A twig had snapped under his foot. Taking a deep breath, he began to walk again, only to jump and fly back inside when a huge owl flew overhead. Safe inside once more, he sighed. Maybe his mom was wrong. Maybe there really were scary things outside. The next afternoon, his mom went out to gather supplies for the festival, and this time Flicker decided to follow her. As she flew through the tall grass, he hid underneath the blades, peeking out every now and then to make sure she wasn't going to get hurt. Suddenly, he heard a voice. "Well, well, what do we have here? A little scaredy cat hiding in the tall grass." Flicker looked up to see a pair of bright green eyes staring right at him. Before he could react, a large spider crawled out from underneath a leaf. "And you look like a tasty snack," the spider said with a smile. He screamed and tried to fly away, but the spider grabbed onto his leg. "Let me go," he cried. "You're too small to be a snack," the spider said, dropping him on the ground. And then he ran off as fast as he could. Once he stopped running, he noticed that he was in a clearing, and in the center of the clearing stood the tallest tree he'd ever seen. Its branches reached up toward the sky, and its leaves made a perfect tent over his head. Looking around, he realized no one was there. He was completely alone. At first, he felt scared and lonely, but then an idea popped into his head. What if he made this tree his home? No more scary spiders could find him here. And so he set to work, gathering supplies to build a cozy house inside the tree. Every day, he collected bits of string and leaves and petals to weave together into a soft bed. Each morning, he'd fly down to the meadow to collect flower nectar and dewdrops, and bring them back to make his lantern shine brighter and brighter. As the days went by, his new home became a beautiful sight to see. String hung from the branches like curtains, and the petals and leaves formed a roof over his head. Best of all, he never saw another spider in the meadow. One evening, while he was hanging a bit of bluebell beside his front door, he heard some familiar voices. "Have you seen him? He's been missing for days," said one. "I'm sure he's fine," said another. "He always does this after we start practicing for the festival." "He's probably just trying to surprise us with a new trick," suggested a third. Looking down, He recognized the voices as belonging to his siblings. They'd found him, but what should he do? Should he tell them he'd moved in? Then he had an idea. He quickly finished hanging up the bluebell and hurried inside. He had a feeling they wouldn't believe him unless he showed them. He took the brass lantern and climbed up the tree as high as he could. Then he hung the lantern from the sturdiest branch and filled it with dewdrops. When the sun began to set, he turned on his lantern and watched as the light shone brightly through the branches. His siblings flew closer and gasped in amazement. "Look," whispered one. "He's made his own special tree house," said another. "And look how bright his lantern shines," added a third. They'd never seen anything like it before. Flicker smiled as he climbed down. Finally, they'd understand that he wasn't just a scaredy cat. But then something strange happened. Their mom flew over and landed beside him. "Flicker, my dear," she said, "we've been looking everywhere for you. Are you ready to go to the festival?" "But Mom," he said, "I haven't finished decorating yet." "You can decorate with me," she replied, and just like that, she began to help him hang up flowers and string and leaves. Together, they worked until the tree was even prettier than before. Just then, his siblings arrived. "We're ready," they said in unison. "Let's go," added their mom. As they flew toward the meadow, Flicker couldn't help but think that maybe being a scaredy cat wasn't so bad after all. He had a beautiful treehouse to go back to, and now his mom and siblings knew how brave he could be. When they arrived at the festival, all the other fireflies gasped. Never had they seen a tree decorated so beautifully. Flicker beamed with pride. Maybe it was nice to be a scaredy cat after all. From that day forward, whenever Flicker felt a little scared, he remembered how he'd overcome his fears and turn his worries into something beautiful. And that's why, years later, when his own children were afraid of something, he told them a story about a little firefly who learned that sometimes the things we fear most can become our greatest strengths.